In October of 2004, the CIA sent in two morons who had no clue what they were doing, and as a result, they got killed. In an effort to track down the two missing agents, the NSA sent in another moron who has no clue what he was doing. Except he's cool because he has 3 green dots on his head. And he can do cool stuff on the walls and... Oh hey, you should buy this game. Hello everybody, this is GamerKill2005 signing on to YouTube, and today we are going to be covering a game I think y'all will like, and it is none other than the OG classic Splinter Cell. Now, the interesting thing about this game is that despite being so old, it actually runs fairly well. And in my opinion, it seems on par with a lot of newer games, even stealth games, in terms of its functionality. The game also has many interesting and intuitive mechanics that shape its identity, not only as an individual game, but has also shaped the stealth action genre as a whole, even influencing its more popular rival, Metal Gear Solid, helping evolve it to third-person gameplay. And despite its occasional hiccups in quality, Splinter Cell has cemented its legacy as a PlayStation classic, as well as a classic overall. The game centers around a man named Sam Fisher, a covert NSA agent investigating the disappearance of 2 CIA agents. Because as we all know, it's always the CIA messing everything up.
I'm the Lorax. I speak for the trees. And for some fucking reason, they're speaking...
Anyways, Fisher gets whisked from his daughter and recruited into the NSA to find the 2 aforementioned agents. Now, where have I seen that before? Under the command of Colonel Lambert, who gives him his orders and other pertinent information for every mission, and a Grimsdaughter who hacks things he cannot and gives him more specific info about each mission, and Vernon Wilkes, who supplies his weapons and extraction vehicles. Why does he sound like he belongs in the Mafia? And heads to the agent's last known location, the former Soviet Republic of Georgia. No, not the Peach and Peanut State, the one nobody knows or cares about. And gathers intel from an NSA contact named Gurganidze, who dies anticlimactically as we leave his body for the fire. After screwing around, giving people concussions, and finding a free computer behind a wall painting, we later learn that Blaustein and Madison, the 2 agents we were looking for the whole time, are dead and have had their subdermal equipment removed from their bodies via surgery, and proceed to hack the police station security cameras in order to track down where the subdermals are headed. We then get taken to the official defense ministry in Silibi and gather intel for a man named Grinko by interrogating his driver Hamlin. Yes, that's his name, no cap. Eavesdropping on him, conversing with a computer geek named Philip Massey, and tapping into the computer of the president of Georgia, Kombay Nikolads, ultimately in an attempt to find out why the subdermals were taken and why the agent were killed off in the first place.
And yes, it took us this long. Don't ask why the government is only using one man to find all this information. The government is 100% trustworthy, okay?
All that aside, we find that Nikolads is waging an ethnic conflict with neighboring Azerbaijan. Because genocide is always the answer and isn't morally reprehensible in any way, right? Right? Which prompts US-NATO intervention into the conflict. War, also always the answer. We then head to an oil rig somewhere in the middle of God knows where to find out what info is being shared between Georgian special forces and yet another computer geek. Bro, where do they keep getting these guys? And we proceed to interrogate him as the timer counts down and the shit burns around us. A very convenient and safe work environment brought to you by the Georgian government in collaboration with the US Air Force. And learn about a secret weapon known only as the Ark. And while flying back to base, the plane gets momentarily disabled, and we almost die. But not, because that would be a boring ending to this story. We learn from this that the CIA has been compromised by a subterranean mammal, apparently.
Sir, what do you mean by a mole?
As well as unlocking a new weapon, a suppressed F-2000 with a launcher that can shoot literally anything. Wait, I thought that was impossible. Oh wait, no, that's only in Black Ops.
Screw you, Activision.
We go through the CIA building, hacking computers and giving people more concussions, until eventually we trace the leak back to an agent named Michael Doherty, whose computer we also hack, and kidnap him, as you do when people give away your data, in order to figure out why the data was leaked and where to. That place being Virginia.
No, not another former bloc country, but I see why you might think that.
We then head to the Kalina Tech building in Langley, Virginia to figure out why the Georgians were mooching off the leaked CIA data. Like a drug bust, but with data. We find that the Georgian mercenaries have been using the building for some time to get inside info on the US and are now scrambling to clear any evidence of their wrongdoings and evacuate the building. They also place mines everywhere, hide and destroy encryption keys to what no one knows, and kill technicians as part of the hasty cover-up. More burning buildings and time counters ensue as well. Our job, on the other hand, is to prevent the Georgians from killing a technician named Ivan, who we leave for the FBI to deal with.
Okay, so I don't have to do everything. Just 90% of the work. Great.
We then get extracted and sent to a nuclear power plant in Russia where some of the data was transmitted. I'm still very confused on this game's plot. Even writing this script, I'm unsure if what I said was correct. We go through the power plant and gather intel on what the data from the US was being used for, essentially answering answers to unanswered questions. We find that the plane is giving its nuclear waste, Americium-239, to the Georgian mercenaries tied to Nikolads, posing as Russian soldiers, as well as transferring the data stolen from the US. Not sure what the nuclear waste was for, though. They just hand-waved that whole ordeal, apparently. We are then sent to the Chinese embassy in Myanmar to investigate any ties Nikolads may have to the Chinese military, and sneak through the streets of Myanmar to the embassy. Why couldn't they just drop us closer or something? I don't know.
Just walk it off, Fisher. Back in my day.
We laser mic a conversation between a Chinese general and Nikolads where they speak about arming the Ark and placing it. We don't know where because, again, answering answers to unanswered questions. They then drive off, but not before alluding to executing American soldiers captured in Azerbaijan. We must then track down where the soldiers are to be executed and find a way to stop it. And kill Grinko, who never mattered much. Turns out he was just another loose end. While still learning more about the Ark and China's relations to Nikolads. Or not. Turns out Farong is in charge of a small splinter of the Chinese military, sympathetic to Nikolads' war against the US, and been helping his development of the arc weapon, which we still have no clue what purpose it serves, or what it even is for that matter. We then travel back to Georgia, again, no seriously, in order to gain info on the location and purpose of the arc, by infiltrating the presidential palace where the new president has allowed Nikolads to access the palace grounds. Now what did you do that for? As it turns out, the arc is a nuclear suitcase bomb located in the US, and planned to be used as some form of terror weapon in Nikolads' global conflict. We then track down the Ark to a library vault and find none other than Nikolads himself attempting to open the case and slip away unnoticed. And we almost stop him, except for the fact that the palace guards swoop in and surround us. Nikolads somehow manages to convince the guards that we are the ones attempting to steal the Ark. What's worse than the bad fibbing is the fact that these literal and figurative NPCs actually believe him and let him walk away with a free escort. No, seriously, what the— Thankfully, our CEO, Colonel Lambert, helps orchestrate a palace-wide blackout, and we are then able to fight our way out of the cellar and library. We then make our way to a random balcony and proceed to kill Nikolads. Why that wasn't option 1, I couldn't tell you, because I don't know the wavelength the US government uses, but it clearly isn't a very good one. We then leave and finally get to go back home and watch the National Guard evacuate the building where the Ark was planted, and disarm or dispose of it, and kick back and relax after a whole month's worth of hard work. For like 2 seconds before Lambert calls back again.
Now, me personally, I wouldn't take that disrespect.
Now, besides the odd and confusing story, the game itself, as I've said before, still holds up even today. Except for when it doesn't. Yeah, I said occasional hiccups, not small hiccups. At the top of the list are noticeable oddities and barriers that the game has, specifically due to its age. One of the main issues has to do, surprisingly and unfortunately, with the functionality of the game. And let me tell you, there are some glaring errors with the gameplay that affect its fluidity. Severely. Like, super severely. Like... And the potato AI don't help either, especially since they aren't balanced in any way. They're either too good at their job for it to be fair, or they lack any and all brain cells. Also, it can be hard to tell what you're supposed to do when or how due to certain details being too subtle. Like when it's appropriate to pull a Jean-Claude Van Damme on the wall. Or it puts too many obstacles in an extremely linear level. Like seriously, who needs 2 cameras right next to each other? Because the CAA is tweaking hard. There are also certain situations where the game, for the sake of challenge, allows the AI to conveniently do the impossible. So you mean to tell me that he can tell exactly where I am indefinitely if he bumps into me at all, even in the pitch darkness? Who is this dude? Superman? God? Also, lastly, is the fact that certain levels are just not conducive to the abilities that Sam has at his disposal. There are 3 specific levels that come to mind, but basically, after the halfway point for whatever reason, the devs I guess just ran out of ideas and just decided to do it live. So as a result, 3 of the levels are linear through and through, except for like maybe the end. When I say linear, I mean linear. Like literally, the paths are straighter than a ruler to the point where half the time you can't even use certain abilities that you barely got to use before. Like I spent an entire mission learning several different abilities that I got to use once. Like who designed this game? Oh yeah, and also 2 of the 3 linear levels prevent you from using lethal force for like most of the level, while simultaneously giving you full ammo for you to do what with exactly? I don't know. And now we come to the case of good hiccups. No, that doesn't exist. Don't ask why I said that. Now, as for the good, you're in luck because literally everything else is capable of being described as such. Starters, the moves you get to use, even if you don't get to use them for the rest of the game, feel completely intuitive to use, and the game typically doesn't leave any question as to how or where to use them. The only issue there is with using them is typically just the timing, but that's just a minor skill issue. And while the game also only gives you 2 weapons, both of them are fun to use. Well, I mean, you know what I meant. Also, on most levels, the game actually lets you, and in some cases encourages you, to use your weapons with little to no consequence, which is good for me at least, because I don't like to leave any loose ends. On top of that, the game never seems to leave you hanging in the way of ammo either. There's always extra ammo hanging around in random checkpoints. And speaking of checkpoints, the game also frequently offers checkpoints conveniently right before any big events unfold, which is also good because I have an affinity for dying quite frequently and forgetting to save. And so, there you have it. Splinter Cell is a game with an interesting plot, to say the least, intuitive controls that make stealth somewhat fun to play, a game that takes care to remind us endlessly that violence isn't the answer, it's a question, and the answer
Is yes.
and in the end, it stands among the classics as an icon worthy of a 10-minute YouTube video. And with that, this is GamerKill2005 signing off on another creative endeavor, if it can even be called one. As always, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Be sure to like and subscribe, and comment on this video, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.
When we kiss, danger, danger, high voltage. When we touch, when we kiss, when we touch, when we